Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay. I'm Ximena I'm from Peru. I'm 31 years old. And I'm in advertising. I've worked in marketing as well. And now I'm in IE school doing my MBA.
Nice, that's very impressive. So today we just wanted to get your views on what is it different growing up as a woman in Peru compared to the men, for example.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things that are better? What are some of the things that are worse? And just take some views on you, both in business and in personal life.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe in the household. I mean, 3 focus areas that we have is 1 within the house,
Mm-hmm.
2 within the workplace, and 3 within the society. Not just the houses, but like if there's a social gathering and those sort of scenarios. So.
Okay. Well, like just to get into the subject, in Peru, Peru is a very patriarchal society, you know. So the men basically are have the leading roles, both in politics and home and everything. But it's evolving. For example, my mom is a housewife. She studied literature, but she never actually worked. And that happened with a lot of my friends' mothers. But some of them, they did work, and I think they started this whole women in the workplace thing for Peruvians. They started out as secretaries, as assistants, etc. Very few of the grandmas of my generation went to the university. They are the pioneers, actually. I know like a couple of grandmas that studied at the university in the time when they were the only females there. So it's been a long process, and it's been a little slow. But now I think there are a lot of women working in Peru, most of them. I'm gonna split it, no? Like you said, work-wise.
No, it's okay. We can go talk about work first. So,
okay.
Just continuing into that, what do you think is the major difference at the workplace, being a guy and a female?
At the workplace, major difference is that they pay women less money
for the same work.
Exactly, that's a fact. You can see that in like statistics and everything. Actually, women in Peru, like as a whole country, they do like 50% of the work, you know, and they get like a third or less of the pay. So that's a big inequality. And in my environment, like working in consumer goods, in technology, I've always worked mostly in marketing. There are a lot of female positions, but yeah, we do get paid less, and it's disencouraging because you can ask your friends sitting next to you. They won't talk about it, but they earn at least 20% more, 15% more. And for us as women to get higher up in the pyramid, it takes a lot of toughness first. You have to get all the credentials. Like, it's harder for a woman to get a higher position just out of experience. You, of course, have to show the same credentials as the men, but even it's more necessary, you know. And then you have to be a badass. Of course, you have to be a badass, and you have to devote yourself a lot to work because you know you have your house, your family, your children. And from what I've seen, women in high rank positions in Peru sacrifice a lot, and it's hard for them. They have to show a lot of, as I've said, credentials and experience and toughness.
So just to get it a little deeper into it, why do you think it's like that? Like, in your opinion, what is the cause for people just wanting to pay women lesser for the same amount of work compared to what they pay men?
It's awful, you know, because actually the formal speech that companies have is that they're promoting women in the workplace and that they're giving them all these kinds of benefits and they're friendly to women. But the actual truth is that managers still prefer men because they believe men are less of a problem, if I can say it that way, because women get pregnant, so that's the problem, no? First, they get pregnant, and that means in Peru they'll be out of the workplace for 3 3 months at least, if not a little bit more, because sometimes there are health complications and stuff. But the legal time is 3 months, which is not a lot actually. In Spain, I know they get like a year, 9 months. So in that regard, they don't like to hire women because they can get pregnant whenever, no? And that's the problem. And the other thing is, I think, since it's a patriarch society, a lot of the other managers and the clients, etc., they're men. And there's this prejudice, I don't know, that for tougher decisions, for harder situations, men are going to respond better than women because women are too emotional. Which is not at all true. Women are emotional, but I think that's a good thing for decision making and for influencing them. I guess those may be the two drivers. And for the payroll thing, I really don't get it. I have no explanation for it.
And the legal system in the country doesn't have any laws to prevent something like this, because by the sound of it, it sounds very unfair to me.
Yeah, it's not general, like. You can say most of the positions pay more for a guy, at least 10-15% more. But of course there are exceptions to the rule, especially for entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs. But I am not sure if there's a law against that. I have not looked into it, at least. I don't think there is.
Okay. So let's move to the house.
Okay.
Let's move to the household, for example. So like, what are typically seen as the responsibilities of men versus the responsibilities of women within the house in Peru?
Okay, so women in Peru, like, it's awful to say, but in Peru it's very divided. Social classes are very divided, and it has to do with the geography of the country as well, because we have 3 regions: the coast, the Andes, and the jungle. And it's very hard, like, our transportation and the roads and everything is not very good, so people tend to stay in their environment, no? So actually what I'm going to talk about is mostly my experience growing up in the coast in a high middle class family, but it's probably very different from what happens to people in the jungle or in the Andes. It's a whole different reality. So what I've experienced growing up in Lima as a middle class family, my mom being a housewife and all, we spent a lot of time with our moms at home, learning, I don't know, what used to be considered the female role, no? Tending to whatever house chores, learning to cook, helping out, no? And being there to help the family, no? To be a sweet girl, to be helpful. And as we grew up, things were changing for women everywhere. So we were looking at our mothers. Some of them were already working. Some of them were transforming from housewife into a professional. Some of them were starting to go to the university at a late age. And a lot of them were thriving. So I guess that impacted us as well, like, to become more equal to men, no? But I could say bottom line, in Peru, it used to be the housewife, the prototype for a girl, the housewife, no? And the mother, of course. You're not like fully fulfilled if you do not become a mother, and I think that's also not right, but it's like that in Latin America. And it's starting to change rapidly. Now I think there's no difference between me and my brother. Maybe when I was really young, they taught me like to be more of the caretaker, no? But now I think there are not so many differences. My parents have evolved as well with the times. And the only thing that I noticed, and it's funny, is that even though the media and everything around us tells us that women and men are equal, even in Peru, still there's some root of it, like whenever we have to do some lunch or family gathering or whatever house chore is up there for someone to do, my mom will turn around to me like, Ximena, pick up the dishes, Ximena, help me with the chicken. But I think that's normal, that's tradition. Nobody tells my brother, why didn't you cook yourself dinner or whatever, no? But you cannot fight against that. And I think there's a good side to it. Like, whenever I get married or settle down or whatever, I would like to be like that, protective of my children and my husband. I think that it has a nice side to it. Also, there's this very strong idea about men being chivalrous, which I think is nice. It's also very linked to tradition, no? Where men took care of women more. So some of the girls like it, even though we're feminists. I think it's nice. It's nice to have like a guy open the door for you, and I don't know, that kind of details. But in my family, and I think in most families in Lima, parents are very encouraging to their daughters, like study, be a professional, you have to make the most out of life that you can. Now girls are getting married later. The average is 28, 29 to get married, but I'm 31 and I'm still single, so I think it's pushing forward now in life. So people want to get a lot of stuff accomplished before they get married, and girls as well.
That's really nice.
Yeah, so it's changing. But for me, for example, I have to say, even though I don't think about it every day, and I think a lot of Latin girls must have this as well, it's like this huge cloud over your head. When are you going to get married? No? And I think this is less so in the States or in Europe. It's changing in Latin America, but it's still very, very strong, and people expect you to be fulfilled as a mother. And if somehow that doesn't happen because life wants it that way, or if that doesn't happen because you don't want it to be that way, because you want to be single, or because you don't want to have kids, people tend to judge you. No? So it's hard. It's hard especially because you have to put in so much work in the workplace, so many hours. So it's a challenge, it's a challenge.
Is it similar for your male counterparts as well, that they are also expected to be married and have a family? Or
No.
No?
Well, they are, there's a saying in Peru, soltero maduro, maricón seguro. It's awful. It's like an old guy that's still single is probably gay.
Yeah.
It's awful, yeah. You can see there are a lot of prejudices there. But yeah, they do have some kind of pressure. And they have a lot of pressure to be the one bringing in the money to the family. Even though girls are not working and they're mostly like in an equal position, but they still have this huge thing. Probably that's their huge cloud above their heads. Like, I'm going to be like the one bearing everything in a household. No. Which is not true, but it's not so much as a pressure as for girls. They can get married when they're 40 or 40 something, and it's okay. The basic thing there being they can still have kids. Yeah, it's awful, but the biological clock ticking, it's kind of an issue there. Yeah. Especially like for us, for me being 31, my mom is more modern now, but my grandma, for example, is like, when are you gonna get married? Like, she's super worried. Like, I want to see my grandkid. So yeah, you can ignore it for a while, but it's still there, and your family worries about it, so you worry about it as well.
Alright, so any other thing that you would like to talk about, for example, when you go out in a social context, is there any sort of a prejudice or a particular scenario? For example, I spoke with somebody from Colombia, and she mentioned that when you go to church, there's a big difference in
how you dress?
Yeah, not just the dress, but like also you're expected to be a different person than who you are.
Yeah.
And things like that. And it's not that bad for guys, or is...
No, I think in Peru, no. Thank God, socially it's evolving. Peru is a poor country, basically. It's growing and it's in a good path, but there are a lot of poor people, low education, so women have had to battle for themselves, and there's actually like some statistics say that families pull through because of the women. Because guys, like I'm talking now more in a general sense, some of the men tend to slack around, and some of them drink, like in a broader, more popular sense, no? And the women, they've shown to be like the fighters. And they are actually what I told you, they do like 50% of the work or more in the country, and they get paid less. So they're fighters. Women have been pulling things along in Peru for a long time. And they have to balance this, having to nurture and take care of your family and have this emotional side to you, with the toughness that you have to show just to survive out of the streets. Either if you're in a professional environment or just like surviving, having something to eat the next day. So I think women have, in the social sense, have gone over a lot of stereotypes, and they don't care right now. In Peru, I think, at least in the bigger cities, women are equal now out in the streets. So we dress however we want to, we talk however we want to, we can be leaders. So yeah, we're a Catholic country, and a lot of us are very close to God and to church and everything, but I don't think, not even church in Peru commits you to dress in a different way. Like, of course you're not going to go in your shortest skirt or your cleavage to church, but you can go as yourself, however, like you're dressed normally, you can go there. And yeah, no, I think like in a social environment, whenever I go out, for example, like on a Friday night, I can behave the same way a guy does. The only difference is this chivalrous thing. Like, probably if I go out on a date, the guy will feel compelled to pay for stuff, even though I say, no, we can both pay, but deep down, I really want the guy to pay. So, yeah, there's a little bit of that, but that's the only thing. And I guess people now getting married in my generation, even though we carry a lot of this traditional stuff, and it has its weight, we know we're getting into a more modern, how do you say that? Like you're like a team, the wife and the husband. Or maybe you're not married, you're just a couple now, but you're like a team and both putting the same effort. And I think things are working towards equality there. Yeah.
That's a very interesting point you mentioned. Like, so how does the society generally judge somebody who's not married but living together, for example? And has it changed over the years?
Now it's less harsh than before. I think a lot of that has to do with the media, because now we have people in the media who are like that, who are single or who just live together and they're both professionals or whatever, no? And it's changing, yeah. I actually had a boss who was a woman, and she was the one working at home, and the husband was an artist, for example. They were married. They could have not been, but they were. And it was strange first when we realized, oh, the guy's not working, but actually he is working, but he's an artist. So it's changing. Like right now, I think, for example, her situation is less judged than before. Like, but it's changing so rapidly. Like 5-7 years ago, it was a surprise to know how her household worked, and now I think people don't judge her. So it's changing rapidly, and I don't know. I have high hopes. I think it's a minority, the people that live together and don't get married, because they're still a little bit frowned upon. But it's probably not going to be like that in 10 years. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So
is there any other thing that you'd like to share about the situation, or?
No, I think that's it.
Thank
It's
you.
evolving.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.